penned them after the August 19th, 2022 shooting. Banks did not, however, write those lines after the shooting. He wrote them 7 months prior and never got any more lyrics or recording from Banks. Sheriff reviewed the open source YouTube links that were, the court should request this to see if they were like, no, wait, watch this fan edit real quick. Or no, they wouldn't even say.
You won't believe what's happening in the Lil Durk case right now. This is the bombshell development everyone is talking about. The kind of twist that nobody saw coming, and it changes the entire landscape. Get ready, because the truth is even crazier than the rumors. The world of hip-hop is no stranger to drama, but the recent legal troubles swirling around superstar rapper Lil Durk have reached an unprecedented level of intensity and gravity, known for his raw and unfiltered lyrics that often reflect the harsh realities of street life in Chicago. Durk, whose real name is Durk Banks, now finds himself entangled in a complex and high-stakes legal battle that has captivated the attention of fans and legal observers alike. This isn't just about music anymore. It's about life, death, and the intricate workings of the American justice system. The allegations against him are profoundly serious, striking at the very core of criminal law, a federal indictment alleging involvement in a murder-for-hire plot. This is not a minor charge. It's the kind that carries the potential for a life sentence, a stark contrast to the platinum plaques and sold-out arenas that have marked his successful career. The weight of these accusations is immense, casting a long shadow over his future and forcing a re-evaluation of the man behind the music in the public eye. The case centers around a tragic shooting that occurred in Los Angeles in August 2022. The victim was Saviay'a Robinson.
Indictment says an associate of TB pulled out a gun and shot DB multiple times, killing him. Now, the indictment doesn't have the full names of TB or DB, but the circumstances match the November 6, 2020 shooting death of rapper King Von, whose real name is Davon Bennett. And of course, we know Quando Rondo's real name to be Taekwon Bowman. So where does Lil Durk come into play here? Well, federal prosecutors say after King Von's murder, Lil Durk wanted revenge. According to the indictment, Banks made clear in coded language that he would pay a bounty to
a cousin of rapper Quando Rondo. While the initial reports of the shooting were deeply disturbing, the subsequent federal investigation has brought forth allegations that escalate the incident from a street-level crime to a far more organized and deliberate act, according to the federal indictment unsealed following Lil Durk's arrest in October 2024. Prosecutors allege that Banks was not merely a bystander or indirectly involved, but was in fact integral to a conspiracy to commit murder for hire. The alleged target was reportedly Quando Rondo, and the indictment suggests that the shooting that killed Robinson was a consequence of this alleged plot. This transforms the narrative from a spontaneous act of violence to a calculated plan, allegedly set in motion by a prominent figure in the music industry. The use of the term murder for hire itself denotes a level of premeditation and alleged contractual agreement for violence, painting a picture far more complex and sinister than a simple street altercation gone wrong. The federal charges against Lil Durk are multifaceted and severe. He stands accused of conspiracy to use interstate facilities to commit murder for hire, resulting in death. This charge highlights the federal government's jurisdiction in the case, as it alleges that the planning and execution of the alleged plot involved crossing state lines. The use of interstate facilities, such as phones, internet, or travel, to further a criminal enterprise is a key element.
On August 18, 2022, OTF members, and this is according to the feds, this is not me talking, this is the actual paperwork you and I went through the fine-tooth comb. OTF members learned that Quando Rondo was staying in a hotel in LA from a longtime OTF affiliate co-conspirator 4. Yeah. Okay. So, after they learned about this, the following men took a one-way flight from Chicago to San Diego. OTF Didi, OTF Boogie, Flocka, and Brown Eyes.
Element that brings it under federal purview. Additionally, he faces charges related to the use and discharge of firearms in connection with the alleged crime. These charges are not merely procedural. They speak to the alleged actions taken and the tools allegedly used to carry out the purported plan. Each charge carries significant potential penalties, and when combined, they present a formidable legal challenge. The indictment lays out the government's theory of the case, detailing how they believe the alleged plot was conceived and executed, involving multiple individuals and a coordinated effort that spanned across different states. The narrative presented by the prosecution in the indictment suggests a deliberate and calculated effort. They allege that Banks, as a prominent figure associated with the Only the Family and OTF collective, was at the center of this alleged Conspiracy. The indictment reportedly details how interstate facilities were allegedly utilized to further the plot, including potential financial transactions and communication across state lines to facilitate the movements of individuals involved. The tragic outcome, the death of Saviay'a Robinson, is directly linked in the indictment to this alleged murder-for-hire scheme. This connection is crucial for the prosecution's case, as it elevates the charges and underscores the gravity of the alleged actions. The legal documents suggest a level of organization and planning that goes beyond a spur-of-the-moment act, portraying a more intricate criminal undertaking, adding another layer of legal
irrelevant to the fact that a murder for hire is, all you have to do is prove that he had knowledge. According to these text messages that Lil Durk have from his phone, from his cell phone that's in his name, that he texting the killers, don't put none in my name that's gonna come back to me. That's being aware. You got 2, 5, and 4 conspirator that's not in the indictment. So they got way more evidence. Then they have 250 gigabytes.
Legal complexity to the situation is the wrongful death lawsuit filed by the family of Saviay'a Robinson. This is a separate civil case from the federal criminal proceedings. While the criminal case is about the state prosecuting an individual for alleged crimes, the civil lawsuit is about the victim's family seeking monetary damages for the loss of their loved one due to alleged negligence and unlawful actions. This lawsuit names Lil Durk and others as defendants, alleging that their actions or alleged conspiracy led to Robinson's death. The standards of proof in a civil case are different from a criminal case. In a civil case, the plaintiff must prove their case by a preponderance of the evidence, more likely than not, while in a criminal case, the prosecution must prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. This means that even if the outcome of the criminal case is not a conviction, the civil lawsuit could potentially still find the defendants liable. This adds significant pressure and consequence to the legal situation, impacting not only Lil Durk's freedom, but also his financial resources and public image. From the outset, Lil Durk has maintained his innocence. Through his legal representatives, he has entered a plea of not guilty to all charges in the federal case. This is a fundamental right in the American legal system, and it sets the stage for a potentially lengthy and complex trial where the prosecution will have to present its evidence to convince a jury of his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. His defense team has—
Alright, so it looks like we've got Lil Durk and his legal team trying their hardest to get Lil Durk out of jail. Yesterday, they filed a motion to dismiss the superseding indictment against Lil Durk because they believe that the prosecution team presented evidence to the grand jury that was not rooted in fact. Specifically, they are claiming that part of the evidence the prosecution team provided to the grand jury regarding a song that he did with Babyface Ray called Wonderful World and Jackie Boy, and the version of this song that they presented to the grand jury to get that superseding indictment had a clip of Quando Rondo yelling out no after his cousin Lul Pabb was shot in LA. They presented this to the grand jury as if Lil Durk had added that no scream to the record himself. Him and his legal team and the producer of this record and the owner of the studio that recorded this record are claiming that Lil Durk had no say.
Has been actively challenging the prosecution's case, reportedly filing motions to dismiss the indictment or to secure his release on bond while awaiting trial. One of the key areas of contention, according to reports, is the evidence presented by the prosecution, particularly the interpretation of Lil Durk's song lyrics and the use of online videos as purported evidence. Sources close to the artist indicate his strong denial of the allegations. While he hasn't made extensive public statements about the specifics of the case, his legal team has been vocal in their defense strategy. They have reportedly argued that the lyrics cited by the prosecution are artistic expression and not confessions or evidence of a criminal plot. The defense may contend that using creative works as direct evidence of criminal intent is a misapplication of the law and chills artistic freedom. Furthermore, the defense has reportedly raised questions about the reliability and origin of online videos that the prosecution may be attempting to use as evidence, suggesting they could be fabricated or misattributed fan-made content with no connection to Banks or his organization. His legal team's approach appears to be focused on dismantling the prosecution's narrative and raising reasonable doubt about the evidence presented. They are likely to scrutinize every piece of evidence, challenging its authenticity, relevance, and the conclusions drawn from it by the government. The legal process in a federal case of this magnitude is often protracted and involves several stages following his arrest.
And buys 4 ski masks. The GPS put him at the store at the time of the purchase. There's probably cameras in the store, and they have a receipt for the actual purchase to him. He also goes and gets a bunch of guns, including a Glock with a switch, and he provides these guns to Flocka Brown Eyes and co-conspirator 2. The day of the murder. By the way, all this is accurate, right? You're not disputing any of this. According to the feds.
Co-conspirator 2.
Arrest, Lil Durk was held in custody. His legal team has been pushing for his release on bond, arguing that he is not a flight risk and that he deserves to be free while awaiting trial. A bond hearing is a critical juncture where the judge will hear arguments from both the prosecution and the defense regarding whether the defendant should be released from jail and under what conditions. The prosecution will likely argue that he is a danger to the community or a flight risk, while the defense will present evidence to the contrary, perhaps highlighting his ties to the community, his lack of a prior record of failing to appear in court, and proposing conditions that would ensure his presence at future proceedings. The outcome of the bond hearing, scheduled for May 8, 2025, will be highly significant, determining whether he will remain incarcerated or be released until his trial. The earned. Trial itself is currently scheduled for October 2025. This allows time for both the prosecution and the defense to continue their investigations, gather evidence, and prepare their arguments. A federal trial involves jury selection, opening statements from both sides, the presentation of evidence by the prosecution, the opportunity for the defense to cross-examine witnesses and present their own evidence, closing arguments, and finally, jury deliberation and a verdict. The burden of proof lies with the prosecution to convince all 12 jurors beyond a reasonable doubt that Lil Durk is guilty of the charges. The defense
The defendants under the bus, because he's saying that Lil Durk can't have it. You got those guys, but my guy's innocent. Hey, it's a dirty game, man. We already seen this with O Block. They lawyers. When it comes to the end, man, they get to throwing people out the way. But Lil Durk, what Lil Durk is trying to do is Lil Durk is he definitely separating himself on this shit, and he trying to get the information that the feds got. That's what Lil Durk really trying to do. Like, they trying to
will aim to create doubt in the minds of the jurors, highlighting inconsistencies in the evidence or presenting alternative explanations for the events. The complexity of the charges, the potential involvement of multiple individuals, and the nature of the alleged evidence suggest that this could be a lengthy and intricate trial. The significance of this case extends far beyond Lil Durk himself. It highlights the increasing scrutiny placed on figures in the hip-hop community by law enforcement, particularly in cases involving allegations of violence or organized crime. It also raises important questions about the intersection of artistic expression and criminal intent, and how lyrics and other creative works should be treated as evidence in a court of law. The outcome of this trial could set precedents and have implications for other artists facing similar legal challenges. Furthermore, the case underscores the tragic consequences of gun violence and the ongoing efforts by law enforcement to address it, particularly when it is allegedly linked to organized criminal activity. The intense public interest in the case also reflects the cultural impact of hip-hop and the fascination with the lives of its biggest stars. Throughout this challenging period, Durk's focus, according to those around him, remains on clearing his name and navigating the complexities of the legal system. While the allegations are severe, the legal process is designed to determine guilt or innocence based on the evidence presented. In court, his legal team is expected to mount a vigorous defense.
Banks was arrested in Florida by the U.S. Marshals Service. The 32-year-old's arrest comes as 5 other people in Chicago were arrested in connection with the investigation. According to the complaint, Banks and his co-conspirators allegedly worked together to, quote, track, stalk, and attempt to murder a target at a Los Angeles gas station, firing at least 18 rounds into the person's vehicle, striking and killing a passenger in the car. Banks made his first court appearance this afternoon in Miami. Banks' lawyer
challenging the prosecution's narrative at every turn and presenting their own interpretation of the events. The difference between an accusation and a conviction is substantial, and the upcoming legal proceedings will be crucial in determining the truth of the allegations. The support from his fan base remains a factor, with many expressing disbelief at the charges and hoping for his exoneration. However, the legal process will unfold independently of public opinion. Guided by the rules of evidence and procedure, the detailed nature of the federal indictment suggests that investigators have been building this case for some time, gathering information and evidence to support their allegations of a murder-for-hire plot. The alleged use of interstate facilities is a key component that allowed the federal government to become involved, emphasizing the scope of the alleged criminal activity. The connection between the alleged plot and the tragic death of Saviay'a Robinson is central to the charges he faces. The prosecution will need to establish a clear link between Banks and the alleged conspiracy and demonstrate that the actions taken were part of a deliberate plan to cause harm. This will likely involve presenting evidence of communications, movements, and financial transactions that they believe are connected to the alleged plot. The defense, in turn, will likely seek to sever any alleged links between Lil Durk and the actions that led to Robinson's death. They may argue that while unfortunate, the shooting was not a result of a plot orchestrated by Banks.
To just say, yeah, I'll do life in prison. Like, okay, no problem.
I think the question shouldn't be, will he beat it? I think the question should be, will he survive it?
What do you mean?
Well, I don't necessarily think you're just beating a Fed case like that. I think there's going to be a difference where, 5 years, yeah, you'll survive that. 10 years, you'll survive that. A fucking 80-year sentence plus life, you're not making it,
Or that the evidence presented does not conclusively prove his involvement in such a scheme. They may also challenge the credibility of witnesses or the interpretation of forensic evidence. The legal battle will essentially be a contest of narratives, with the prosecution presenting their version of events and the defense offering an alternative explanation or highlighting the lack of sufficient evidence to support the charges. The stakes are incredibly high for Lil Durk, and the outcome of this case will have a profound and lasting impact on his life and career. The legal maneuvering leading up to the trial, including the bond hearing and any motions to suppress evidence, will be critical in shaping the trajectory of the case. The civil wrongful death lawsuit, while separate from the criminal case, adds another layer of legal pressure. Even if Lil Durk is found not guilty in the criminal trial, he could still be found liable in the civil case. This means he could be ordered to pay significant financial damages to the Robinson family. The civil lawsuit's focus is on compensation for the harm caused, while the criminal case is focused on punishment for alleged criminal acts. The evidence presented in the civil case may overlap with the criminal case, but the legal standards and potential outcomes are different. This means Lil Durk and his legal team must navigate both legal fronts simultaneously, each with its own set of challenges and potential consequences. The civil case also keeps the tragic loss of Saviay'a Robinson at the forefront, underscoring the human impact.
Clips, specifically these fan edits that weren't made by anyone on Durk's team, or Durk himself, obviously. That's crazy. Such an error requires dismissal of the indictment under the following circumstances. First, where the grand jury returned an indictment based on the government's knowing presentation of a falsehood, citing United States v. Kennedy, a few other sites of cases. The court has the power to dismiss an indictment that the grand jury returned based on information the government knew at the time to be later learned to have been false. Mr. Banks does not take lightly the request that he's making of this court. Dismissal is in all cases
of the events in question. As the legal process unfolds, the public will be watching closely. The case touches on themes that resonate deeply within society, including violence, fame, and the pursuit of justice. The outcome will not only determine Lil Durk's fate, but may also influence how similar cases are approached in the future. The presumption of innocence is a cornerstone of the legal system, and it is crucial to remember that these are currently allegations, and Lil Durk is entitled to a fair trial to present his defense. The road ahead is undoubtedly challenging for him and his legal team, as they prepare to defend against serious federal charges. The upcoming bond hearing and the eventual trial will be pivotal moments in this ongoing legal saga. This situation serves as a stark reminder of the real-world consequences that can sometimes intersect with the world of music and entertainment. While artists often use their music to express their experiences and perspectives, legal battles can arise that bring those expressions under intense scrutiny. The complexity of this case, involving allegations of conspiracy, interstate activity, and tragic loss of life, highlights the intricate nature of the legal challenges faced by individuals in the public eye, particularly when those challenges involve serious criminal accusations. Legal proceedings will be a test of the evidence, the arguments of both sides, and ultimately essentially the ability of the justice system to arrive at a fair and
authentic version of this song does not contain these manipulated elements. Creating altered audio edits is easy to do through social media platforms, and such practices often result in misinformation and misrepresentation of original pieces of music and art. He declared this under the penalty of perjury. So we got both producers and engineers that worked on this saying that it was recorded before Lul Pabb was killed, further verifying the timeline in which the song was made. There was another document filed, and it was an application for review or reconsideration of orders setting conditions of release or detention. This is basically Lil Durk saying, hey man, I want a new court date so that I can get out. Pretty much he wants bond, and it says right here, relief sought, release on a bond secured by approximately $900,000 in equity and real estate property, $1 million in cash, and additional third-party sureties to satisfy whatever bond amount that the court determines to be appropriate. Bond conditions can include home
just resolution. The eyes of the world are watching to see how this high-profile case will conclude. For the absolute latest updates on this developing story and other major cases, make sure you're subscribed to our channel. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single moment of this unfolding legal drama. The hip-hop community reacts loyalty or silence? As the legal firestorm surrounding Lil Durk continues to rage, the hip-hop community has entered a state of tense silence and strategic distancing. While some fans expected an outpouring of support from fellow rappers, what followed instead was a carefully measured silence from many of Durk's longtime collaborators. Lil Baby, once considered Durk's musical blood brother, has remained completely silent. Not a tweet, not a story, not a whisper. This silence, deafening in itself, has sparked wild speculation, especially following their recent fallout tied to another courtroom drama. Some fans believe Baby's distancing is strategic, aimed at protecting himself from any association with the ongoing federal investigation. Others see it as a sign that bridges have already been burned behind the scenes. Meanwhile, rappers like Meek Mill, G Herbo, and 21 Savage, once vocal supporters of Durk, have made no public statements. The question on everyone's mind is, are they playing it safe, or do they know something the public doesn't? But not everyone is hiding. Underground rapper and former OTF
You know, Quando's going crazy at this point. They drive off, they meet out at an In-N-Out burger about an hour later, and according to the paperwork, they talk about the money they're getting paid. It's interesting to see when this all comes out, how much they were actually offered initially and how much they actually got because they got the wrong guy, right? Because Quando was untouched.
Still got to get paid the same, I think.
Possibly.
Hey, listen, I think any smart criminal or criminal
affiliate Memo 600 took to Instagram Live in a furious rant indirectly referencing Durk's legal woes. These dudes be talking gangsta in tracks, but when it's real, they freeze up. That's why I roll solo. Quando Rondo, whose cousin Saviay'a Robinson was the tragic victim at the center of this case, has also remained publicly silent, but sources claim his team is preparing to speak out soon, possibly in the form of a statement or interview addressing the indictment and the personal loss his family suffered. Behind the scenes, record labels are nervous, concert promoters are holding back, and streaming platforms are quietly reassessing their exposure. It's no longer just a case. It's a cultural tremor affecting business decisions and industry alliances. And for now, Lil Durk stands alone. Inside the courtroom, a star. Stripped of his armor, the drama unfolding inside the courtroom could rival the plot of any crime series. Gone is the confident stage presence, the designer fits, the diamond-studded chains. In their place stands Durk Banks, quiet, focused, and visibly exhausted. Reporters present at preliminary hearings describe the atmosphere as intensely charged. The prosecution came armed with thick binders of alleged communications, digital records, and eyewitness testimony they claim ties Durk directly to the murder-for-hire plot. Prosecutors leaned hard on the interstate facilities angle, arguing that Durk orchestrated communications and
in the industry for years with regard to Lil Durk and his, position with respect to his friend King Von's death and anything that may have been retaliatory in nature. So this is not the first time that I'm hearing of these alleged acts as an attorney, but this is certainly the first time that we now have an indictment alleging these specific acts against him. And what we've seen, in more recent times is that law enforcement is going after individuals who are high profile.
Directives across multiple states. When asked how he pleads to the charges, Durk responded clearly. Not guilty, Your Honor. Throughout the hearing, Durk's legal team remained sharply engaged, occasionally objecting to phrasing and pushing back on the prosecution's summaries. One dramatic moment occurred when prosecutors attempted to play a video pulled from YouTube, allegedly, showing coded language in Durk's lyrics. The defense immediately objected, stating, "This is entertainment, not evidence. You cannot criminalize creativity." Judge Ann Delgado agreed, to a point. While the video was paused, the judge warned that lyrical content may still be considered admissible if directly tied to criminal conduct. Durk's supporters, a small group of family and inner circle affiliates, filled the benches behind him. His fiancée India Royale was present, fueling more rumors about internal strain. The next major court date is the May 8th bond hearing, which will decide whether Durk can return home as he prepares for trial or whether he remains behind bars until October. Until then, the courtroom remains ground zero in one of the most high-profile legal showdowns the rap world has ever seen. Music under scrutiny. Are lyrics now legal traps? Perhaps the most controversial aspect of this case is how Durk's own music is being used against him. Prosecutors are pushing to admit lyrics from tracks like Backdoor, Finesse Out the Gangway, and Aha, arguing they aren't just songs, but coded messages.
And watch out for that other RICO case that's happening in Chicago with Powell and Mac. With Powell and AJ, cause it coincides, man. It definitely coincides, man. Y'all get in the comments, let me know what y'all think. I will be going live tonight. Shout out to Made Media Magazine. Make sure you go and run up his channel. Hey, if you into smoking or smoke accessories, man, hey, go and hit up CertifiedSmoke.com, man, and check out their website. Get your accessories from CertifiedSmoke.com. Tell them Trench News.
Brags, or even veiled confessions. In one startling moment during the indictment's unsealing, a line from a 2023 track was quoted, "We don't tweet beef, we just load up and go." Federal attorneys claim this lyric mirrors text messages obtained from intercepted communications, suggesting Durk was giving orders under the guise of creative expression. But defense attorneys are fighting back hard, calling this tactic a modern-day witch hunt. They argue that hip-hop artists are being unfairly targeted, especially black rappers whose lyrics often reflect systemic violence and personal trauma, not premeditated crime. Music industry professionals are now warning of a dangerous precedent. Lyrics can be weaponized in court. It opens the door for artistic censorship. Jay-Z, Killer Mike, and Meek Mill have all advocated against this trend in the past, with Jay-Z pushing for legislation in New York and California to limit the admissibility of rap lyrics as evidence. Durk's defense is expected to file a motion to suppress any musical content from being used in the criminal trial, citing First Amendment protections and lack of concrete linkage to the case. Still, the lines are blurred. Prosecutors insist that these aren't just lyrics. They're confessions wrapped in rhythm, and they believe they form a critical part of their argument. But if this tactic succeeds, it could redefine the relationship between music and the law, especially for artists whose lyrics reflect lives lived close to the edge.
Regard to his possible acts and things of that nature. And so, it doesn't come as a surprise here. One of the things the government charged here is conspiracy, and they're alleging that OTF, or Only the Family, is essentially this umbrella of an organization that engages in criminal activity or a pattern of criminal behavior, including the murder for hire. They're alleging that Lil Durk is the primary principal who is essentially instructing other individuals to commit these, anywhere from a month to a few months. I think it was a good move on the defense end to adjourn the trial out so that they can get through all of the discovery, they can continue through their investigations and things of that nature. And they really want to bulletproof their defense. And adjourning the trial till October really gives them an opportunity to do that. Now, of course, Lil Durk doesn't want to sit there. Nobody wants to sit, in prison or incarceration. But I think that was the best move necessary to protect his rights in this case. And while they're trying to point together and pin together these alleged acts that have spanned, I think, since the initial 2020 shooting incident, the defense is going to attack it each and every step of the way.
Do you think prosecutors will use music and his own lyrics kind of against him in trial?
I am expecting that is going to happen. And I personally, as a defense attorney, have a significant issue with that. We have a First Amendment.
Say Lil Durk is your client. What kind of defenses are you going to be using, especially in a federal trial case like this?
In a case like this, if I was Durk's attorney, my client is not as involved as the government would like them to allege. all my client does here is he's a rapper. He runs this organization, but it's an organization that's geared towards music and in the music industry. We do hear, lyrics of violence and things like that in the music industry. And